Hey everyone, welcome to another video. In this video we're going to explain you how to brace your core. This is certainly very important when we set up for a deadlift in order to keep our back straight, and this also applies to Olympic weightlifting, dumbbell movements, and basically every movement where we lift an object from the floor or need to do a squat with an object on our shoulders or just move an implement. Today, Simon was so kind to do the demonstration for us, and I'm Chris and I'm going to do the explanation. The first part we're going to do is we're lying down on the floor with our back on a mat. We have both of our knees in a 90-degree position. That's why we also refer to this position as the 90-90 position, because we also have a 90-degree angle at the hip. And in this position, gravity is kind of taken out of the equation as far as holding your body upright goes, and because you're lying on the floor. So now your spine basically is neutral and has its natural curve. We want to remain when we do a deadlift, a squat, or some Olympic lifting. So what Simon is going to do now, he's going to place his hands on his ribs so that he can feel where his hips go over into his abdomen. And what he tries to do now is that he breathes into his stomach. And as you could see, his stomach is expanding, and that's what we want. Because something to think about here is to push the air actively down in your stomach so you feel your stomach expanding and your hands feel that there is no gap between your ribs and your stomach anymore. And to reinforce that, we can do a forceful exhale. Imagine you want to blow up a balloon when you exhale. Like inhale into your stomach and now exhale as you want to blow up a balloon. Even stronger. No air in the balloon now. Exactly. Do you feel your abs when you blow out like this? Yes. Okay, that's what we want to achieve. When you do a forceful exhale, do 3 more breaths. We want to brace our abs as strong as possible, and since our abs and all the muscles surrounding our ribs are helping with the exhalation, we can easily activate them by doing this simple drill. So that's something how we could start out if we have never lifted a barbell from the floor before, or if we might run into some issues where we don't know where to breathe or where to direct the breath when we set up in the starting position. Now we're trying to apply this concept to the real world, because the starting position of a deadlift will feel very different than lying on the floor with your knees and hips at a 90-degree angle. Simon is going to set up for his deadlift now, where he, as usual, has a strong grip on the bar and a tight neutral back. So what we're focusing on now is taking a deep breath into our stomach to really expand the volume and get as tight as possible. Now we want to remain the tension when we pick up the barbell. Do 1 rep and bring it back down. And for each rep we want to retighten, especially if we're going to lift a heavy object from the floor. We want to repeat this process a couple of times where we breathe into our stomach, expand, and now lift up and relax. And you can relax. So why is this important? By having as much volume as possible in our abdomen, the air helps us to create a more stable platform. And this prevents your spine from rounding. And maybe you thought about putting a belt on for a heavy lift. And basically that's the advantage you gain when you put on a belt. You have something to push the air against to, additional to the wall of the inside of your stomach, and that lets you build what we call intra-abdominal pressure. By having more pressure in your abdomen, you can have more rigidity of your spine, and certainly that's something we want to achieve when we brace for a heavy lift to prevent the spine from rounding. Now you've seen it for the deadlift. Simon is going to pick up the barbell now and put it behind his head as for a back squat. In this position, it's arguably even easier to think about the breath and where the breath goes, because we want to push the air down and out. So not only his abs are tight, as you can see them bulging below his t-shirt, also his obliques get tight and his, what we refer to, back abs, basically his spinal erectors, experience some tightness as well. What we don't want to see is the ribs flaring up. So we don't want to exaggerate the breath so much that we create space here. This goes back to the drill we did lying on the floor, where we want to have this part flat. The ribs always need to stay down, and we want to push the air down to increase our volume here. When you feel your stomach is expanding this way and this way, you've done a good job. Do a back squat now with a proper brace. And one more rep, re-brace. Okay, and relax, you can put the barbell back down. Certainly, this concept gets more complicated when we move faster. That's why you should always start slow. You can think of it similar to other movements where skill acquisition is acquired when you move slow and controlled and really can think about things. And eventually they become more automatic and feel very natural when you, for example, cycle a barbell and things need to be quick. This concludes our video on the concept of bracing. As I referred to multiple times throughout this video, this is a very important concept because it keeps your spine rigid and helps you with longevity and spine health. Remember, you only have one spine. That means learning to brace properly will give you more longevity and eventually also better performance. But start small, for example with the 90-90 drill on the floor, to learn the proper breathing technique first, and then try to translate it to as many movements as possible. If you want to see some tutorials on these movements, you can go to one of our playlists where we have them all collected, and you can see what's interesting for you there. If you want to leave a like, we would appreciate that as well. And you could also subscribe to our channel to get informed about new content.